check in about the first book that I finished reading in the month of May. That is Sister Sinner, The Miraculous Life and Mysterious Disappearance of Aimee Semple McPherson by Claire Hoffman. I half read and half listened to this. I listened to this on different bus rides around southern England. So I listened to it on our way from London to Canterbury, and then from Canterbury to Brighton, and then I listened to it on our way from Canterbury to Salisbury, and I listened to it on our way from Salisbury to Bath, and then by way of Stonehenge. And then I listened to it on the way from Bath to Stratford. So this book accompanied me. Aimee Semple McPherson, a very American evangelical preacher, influencer, scandal creator, very American, very 1920s, 1930s. She accompanied me all over southern England. It was a really great listen. Then when I got home, so this is Monday, and I had a half day of work today, just meetings, no kids. I got home on Saturday night. I didn't get to my apartment. I didn't get settled into my apartment with Lola until after 9 at night on Saturday. And then I was home all day yesterday. And while I was home yesterday, I finished reading Sister Sinner. And this was fascinating. I knew quite a lot about Aimee Semple McPherson, one of my best friends in college. Her father was a Foursquare pastor. And when I was in my first year of college, my freshman year, I came across an article in a magazine about her, and then happened to run into a different biography about her and read part, but not all of that. And so I was familiar with Aimee Semple McPherson. You may or may not know who she is. It doesn't really matter if you know who she is or not. The story is absolutely fascinating. She was this, I guess she's kind of like a televangelist before there was television. So she did it on the radio and she did it in person. She built this huge temple in California where she would put on these big extravagant shows as part of her sermons. She liked to use actors and actresses and lighting and music and just costuming and all sorts of things to create this really intense atmosphere, to tell biblical stories, but also to do object lessons. And she was really, really popular. She had just a huge following. And at first, she also was believed to be a healer, that she could heal people through touch. She became the equivalent of a millionaire and a multimillionaire based on the way that her mother, who handled all of her finances and all of the church's finances, set up the structure of the organization. So there was this, they had the tax exemption status of a religious institution, but they also made it so that there was a governing body that was made up of the two of them who owned everything. And so they had the tax exempt status, but they also somehow were completely in charge of all of the finances that came in. All of the donations that came in were immediately their property, and therefore they could choose how they were distributed themselves. They lived a fairly lavish lifestyle, not visibly over the top, but they had like expensive details to their lives. And Aimee got married when she was quite young, and that ended tragically. And then she remarried, and that was pretty negative. In fact, her husband accused her of abuse. They get divorced, and then she disappears. One day, she's swimming at the beach, and she disappears, and she comes back later and claims to have been kidnapped and accuses some people of kidnapping her because they're tired of her messing with their underworld white human trafficking slavery business, and they're tired of her preaching the gospel. And then it kind of comes to light that there's evidence that she actually was never kidnapped, but that she had a 10-day affair with one of her employees, one of the people who was helping her to set up a radio station, or to run a radio station that just sent out her messaging. And the story goes on from there. It is a absolutely fascinating story. And this is told kind of like a true crime, unsolved mystery, but in reality it is a biography of this larger than life woman and her difficult relationship with her mother, her difficult relationship with her own 2 children, her scandals, and her huge following. She establishes a new denomination of Christianity, Foursquare, which is intact to this day. And fascinating woman. So even if you've never heard of her, you might still be interested in this book. And this book by Claire Hoffman is very well written. It really held my attention as I was listening to it on the buses. And it was a very quick, physical read. Even when I was extremely tired yesterday and trying to make myself stay awake, I was still fascinated by what I was reading and really pulled into it. So now though, I'm going to stop with this update of what I've read, and I am going to put together, I'm so excited, I'm going to spend the afternoon and evening putting together my UK clips and pictures and all of that stuff. And I don't know how easy it's going to be to do, because it was not easy to get moments where I wasn't with kids to do any video. So I have some stuff, but I don't really know what I have. I'm really tired and I really want to go to sleep, but I can't. I have a full working day tomorrow, and so I really need to stay awake so I can go to bed at a normal time, so I can get up at a normal time and hopefully not feel exhausted tomorrow. About 3 o'clock yesterday was when I really was hitting a wall, and it's the same today, and I need to be able to stay fully awake. So I am going to work on that and hopefully post that tonight, or set it up to post tomorrow morning. And I'm really excited to do that because it will also help me process all the amazing things that I experienced over the past 8 days. Anyway, really excited that I've already finished a book in May. I think the next one I'm going to read is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I think that's my next one. So very different from Sister Sinner. Very different. I'm in my classroom watching us get a new pope. I'm supposed to be teaching right now, but none of my kids showed up to class. I think they're all in the theater watching the same footage that I'm watching. I teach at a Catholic school. At a Catholic school, it's kind of a big deal. In fact, it's a huge deal. We've been watching for the past 2 days the chimney to see the smoke rise. Black yesterday, white today. So we don't yet know who the Pope will be, but it's history in the making. And here's some footage. Emily Henry's Great Big Beautiful Life. Now, this one I got because last year, okay, we got to go back. I've read multiple Emily Henry books, and I did not like any of them until I read Funny Story. I had sworn off Emily Henry, but for whatever reason last year, while I was standing in line at a grocery store, Funny Story was sitting right there, and I impulse bought it because I love her covers. I mean, how can you not love these covers? And so I got it, and I was like, oh man, now I've got to read it. I don't like Emily Henry, and now I've got to read it. And I did, and one of my favorite books of the year, probably one of my favorite books of all time. Absolutely love Funny Story. So I got this one thinking, okay, maybe her writing is going in a direction that I can get behind. Maybe her writing is becoming writing that is for me. And as I said in my review, good news is I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And now I'm cursed because I must pick up every book that this woman ever writes from this point forward, because what if it's another Funny Story? What if it's another one that I will absolutely love that I don't want to miss out on? But chances are it's going to be another Great Big Beautiful Life, or worse. Great Big Beautiful Life, it has some problems for me. For one thing, I really, really feel absolutely nothing for the two main characters. I can't even remember their names. Alice Scott and Hayden Anderson. I would not have picked those out of a crowd if asked who are the main characters' names. Yeah, Alice Scott and Hayden Anderson. They are both trying to get the gig of writing this woman Margaret's life story. And within the book, there are these sections titled The Story. So there's chapters, numbered chapters, but there's also interspersed throughout the numbered chapters, The Story. And what I feel is that Emily Henry really wanted to write The Story, but ended up writing another formulaic romance novel. And I don't mean a formulaic romance novel. I mean her formula, the Emily Henry formula, and put a watered down synopsis of the book she actually wanted to write in between sex and tropes. And it's real flat. It's really flat. None of it lives. Nothing comes off the page. Nothing is exciting or emotional. It's very flat, this book. I didn't feel anything when reading this book. I tabbed one thing. I was going to say I tabbed nothing, but I did tab one thing. What did I tab? I tabbed, what do you think he should have done? She turns the full force of those shining blue eyes on me. For the one you love, anything. You unmake, oh yeah, I remember now. You unmake the world and build a new one. You do anything to give them what they need. Yeah. All right. So waited 216 pages for that, and it was the only one. So you've seen me tab up an Abby Jimenez. You've seen me tab up a Catherine Center. You know that this kind of book is my bread and butter. I love this kind of book. I don't love this woman's writing. Funny Story was an anomaly for me. Funny Story was a one-off, I think. In Great Big Beautiful Life, you've got those two writers. They're trying to win the chance to write Margaret's life. There's a mystery in Margaret's life. You can figure it out really, really early on. They are attracted to each other, but he doesn't want to do anything because he feels like he's going to get the job because he's a Pulitzer Prize winning author and she's a nobody, and that's kind of gross. And yet he's always instigating all these things that he's not going to do, and she's always kind of chasing after it. And I just didn't like it at all. And she's got like mom issues and sister issues that just don't feel that important. They feel like there's a much bigger response to them than is warranted. He has a couple of things going on that he just flatly shares. There's no emotion. There's no emotion in this book. There's a lot of physical expression. There's a lot of over the top yelling. There's even a hurricane, right? There's a hurricane. I felt nothing. Nothing for Great Big Beautiful Life. And I wanted to make that known. I wanted to feel something with this book, and I simply did not. It was completely tepid. That was the word I used. That was the word I used in my review. It was tepid. So yeah, not a win, not a loss either. I think I gave it 3 stars. It's not terrible. But it wasn't good either. So there's that. I am in the middle of many books, including Frankenstein, but I'm going to talk about this in a different video. I'm in the middle of many books, and I'm really enjoying them. We'll finish quite a few of them very soon, and we'll check in here. I'll be back. We are in my classroom, obviously, and well, in my office, adjacent to my classroom. And I just wanted to check in about this book, which I read physically, but I don't have it with me, but I have time to check in right now, so I'm going to. This was a delight. It is about grief. The main character, Linny, she has, that's saying a lot that I remember her name. She has lost her best friend. Her best friend dies of ovarian cancer. And this really breaks her. She has a really hard time working through it. She's very isolated and alone. She's barely making it through life. And she takes this temporary nanny position, which turns into a life-changing opportunity because the little girl that she's nannying for, her uncle, is also dealing with losses of his own. And of course, it's a romance, but it's more than a romance. It's very much about her journey through grief and all the people who come along beside her to help her through that. And it's really beautiful. And yes, it is a romance. It absolutely is. But here is the great thing about this romance, or about this main character, is that he's solid through the whole thing. There is no third act breakup. There is none of that. It's not necessary. It's not needed. It's a very healthy relationship and interaction. And she is helping him as much as he is helping her. She is helping him know how to build a relationship with his niece, which he really wants, but he doesn't know how to do. And so the parts of her that are healthy are helping the parts of him that need growth, and the parts of him that are healthy are helping the parts of her that need growth. And it's just really a beautiful story. It's very well written. It's quite funny at times. It feels very realistic. For those of you who don't like spice, it's not spicy until the very end. And then you can kind of skip over that chapter or two if you want to. And I keep putting my hand in front of the camera. Hello. I do think that even if you're not into spice, this book, I still recommend it to everybody, because it is so well written. It is so hopeful and gentle and inspiring. It's a beautifully written book, but it's also just a beautiful story with 2 really wonderful characters who I really enjoyed spending time with, and was a little bit sad when the story ended. That's always a good sign when you're a little bit sad, just that the book is over. So yeah, highly recommend. Total win for me as a read. I am going to finish up this today, Transformation by Mary Shelley. I am keeping a different vlog going for my Mary Shelley reads, so I'll be finishing that today, and I might even finish Frankenstein today. I'm not sure. But yeah, reading Mary Shelley stuff on another video. Not reading really fast this month, but reading really well, really well. Loving pretty much everything. I did not love Great Big Beautiful Life, but I didn't hate it either. So that's still a win. But the rest of what I'm reading is very different and good, really solidly good. So I am now going to read something very, very different. I'm going to read a bunch of research papers, and give feedback on them. And that's it. I'm going to read a bunch of research papers so I can hand them back in about half an hour when I have my writing class. So I will see you all later. And yeah, that's it for now. I never know how to end these. See you soon. Hello, this is a check-in. I just got back from work. I had to wear pink today because it is the 8th grade class color, and we had our yearly, we call it lip sync, but really it's a dance-off. The theme this year was that each class picked a song that was representative of their childhood, and my class danced to Hot Wings from a Rio, and there's a little noise at the end. It's supposed to be a bird that goes, ah, at the end. There's a soundbite for you. And now I cannot get ah out of my head. So I'm going to try and do that by telling you about Promise Me Sunshine by Kara Bastone. This, the dog hair on my lip, this was an excellent book. This one right here. This was an excellent read. I absolutely loved this book. This is about Lenny and Miles. Yes, Lenny and Miles. Lenny has just taken a position at the beginning of the book, temporarily to be a nanny for a girl. And this girl has an uncle, Miles, and Miles is a really solid guy throughout the whole thing. You think he's a little bit gruff in the first couple of chapters, but really that's it. After that, he's a really solid guy. There is no third act breakup in this. It is a romance, but it's also really about grief and healing from grief. Lenny has had Miles has had losses of his own. Lenny is kind of trying to process the loss of her best friend, Lou, who dies of ovarian cancer, all on her own. And she has people, but she's cut herself off from people. She has family, loving family and friends. She's cut herself off from all of these things. And she's kind of kept her apartment in New York that she shared with Lou as a memorial. She doesn't like to go there. She'd rather sleep on the ferry from Staten Island and back. And Miles hello. Miles kind of guides her through all of that, to a healthy place. But what is wonderful about this romance is that, yes, he's helping her heal, but it's not one-sided. She is also helping him heal and grow. So the area that she's healthy in, she is engaging with him about and helping him to grow in that area, which is namely building a relationship with his niece and getting over some grief. But he's really processed through a lot of things, which is his area of growth and health, where he can help her grow and heal. It does get spicy in the end, near the very, very end. By this time, it's not Insta. This whole story is not Insta at all. Things are very established. They grow very naturally and solidly and holistically, as far as like the relationship between these two. And he really wants to make sure that she's in a really good place, a really stable place, a healing place, before they begin that kind of physical relationship. And so it really is, I mean, obviously they are romantically interested in each other from the very beginning. They are obviously working towards that. They speak those words to each other. But it really is a friendship that you're watching grow. It is a very, very solid piece of storytelling, really. I loved it. It's a romance. I think I already said it doesn't have a third act breakup, which I loved. Nothing was lacking in this book for not having that. There is no miscommunication. Everything is very clear. I mean, she does reject some things. She does have some moments of fear and running away because of the pain she's gone through, but it all feels really natural. And the book, the writing is beautiful, and the writing is beautiful and funny and tear-jerking at times, and overall it's extremely heartwarming. And so by the time you get to the end, and there's like 2 chapters that are really steamy, you can skip over those and not miss any of the story at all. And I'm saying this only because I think everyone who follows me and enjoys what I enjoy would really love this story and would be better for having read it. And I don't want you to discount it because it has some spice that you may not feel comfortable with. Read the rest of the story and skip over the spice so that you get the joy of having known this book and having known these people and having gone on this journey with them. There are such heartwarming scenes in this book. There are such beautiful relationships in this book. And yeah, high praise. This will be a favorite read of the year for me. This will be a favorite read. It's not going to be the favorite read. I kind of have my eye on the one I think that is right now. It's early days. It is early days, but I do kind of feel like I know. But this is definitely a favorite read of the year, and I would like more people to read it. So pick it up. Promise Me Sunshine by Kara Baystone. Very, very good experience. Now, I think that I really need to give this one some love and attention. And I do still have in my head. It won't go away. The song is like la da 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 da. And this is on a loop in my head. So I'm gonna play with her. Maybe turn the radio on or something. Do you listen to the radio? Like, I totally still stream the radio station that I listened to in college. I have streamed it all over the world. KINK.FM, 101.9, Portland, Oregon. It's the best. And it's been the best since I was in college. So I do still listen to the radio. Do you still listen to the radio? Because that, I think, makes me feel the oldest that I feel, is that nobody listens to the radio anymore except for me. Anyway, speaking of old, today, when I hand this is just a little chatty story. When I hand back papers to students, I usually say something like, Merry Christmas. Like, I just say weird things as I hand back their work to them. And today a student turned in a paper and she handed it to me and she went, Happy birthday. It is not my birthday. Happy birthday. But then the rest of the kids, knowing it's not my birthday, because my birthday is very clearly known because it happens in December right before we go on break, and it is also shared by another student in the class. So they fully know it's not my birthday. They all start singing our school's particular to our school's happy birthday song and clapping and all these things. And then people start wishing me happy birthday all day at school, like adults and parents. Everybody starts wishing me happy birthday all day at school today. And it's nowhere near my birthday. Cracked me up, but I guess I turned another year older today. So, happy birthday to me. I'm gonna go play with this one. Hello, I am in my office killing time, trying to grade papers, but not really. Oh, do you see what I did here? Do you see what I did? Do you see how it's all clean and beautiful? Yeah. There was a day this week when my computer decided it was going to restart an update for over 2 hours. And so I couldn't do anything else. So I cleaned my whole office. Well, I taught one class and then I had one planning period, and I spent that planning period cleaning because I couldn't be on email. I didn't have papers to grade at that point that hadn't been turned in yet. So yeah, so we have a clean area back there. Isn't that exciting? Progress. Who knows if this will even be my office next year or my classroom. We get moved around all the time, but I've been really blessed to be in this room for 3 years. And also a little bit cursed because that means that I have 3 years of accumulated stuff. So yeah, anyway, I'm killing time because I had to stay after school today for an hour and a half or so that I could go to a new student welcome dinner thing that is going to be here 3.5, 4 hours later than normal, which is a bummer, but also tomorrow's Friday and then it's a 3-day weekend, so I think I'm okay. Everything is starting to wrap up here. I have stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of papers to grade. Lots of fun stuff going on at the end of the year as far as English class. We are reading Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet, which I reread last year. I didn't reread it this year, but I reread it last year, and somewhere around this time, probably in May, maybe April, but probably May or early June, my wrap-up video will have a review of that. I was pretty passionate in my review of that, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so if you want to know about my thoughts on Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet, you can go back and watch that. May or June of 2024. And we started practicing our graduation song today. 8th grade does a graduation song. They're going to do You Can Count on Me by Bruno Mars. I'm sure that next month I'll have some footage of them singing that. You won't be able to see them or anything. You'll probably just see my leg or the floor or something, but you'll hear the music. And yeah, I don't know. There's just so much going on. Am I reading? Not at the moment. I'm not going to read as much for Mary Shelley May as I really want to. But it's been a very busy 2 months. I feel like it's been too busy. Like I can't tell what day of the week it is sometimes. Not because my brain is foggy, because it's just too full and it's moving too fast. So, but like I said, 3-day weekend, that's going to be great. And then there's just less than 1 week of, what month is this? Almost April. 1 month left of May. No, 1 week. 1 week left of May. Do they really want me to meet parents tonight? I don't think so. 1 week left of May, and then June, and then just 3 more weeks of work, 2 with kids, 1 without, and then summer break, which is going to be great. I'm going to be doing some fun staycation stuff. And of course, I'll take you along with me. One of the staycation things I really want to do is something I've wanted to do for years living here and have never done, which is kind of like a little bookshop hop, a bookshop crawl through Seattle. I don't properly live in Seattle, but it's very close. And so going to Seattle, I used to live in Seattle, and when I lived in Seattle, I hated living in Seattle. But I'm close enough. It still is very familiar and far enough away that it feels kind of special to go into Seattle. And so at some point early on in the summer, I'm going to go into Seattle and do a bookshop crawl, and that will be super fun. I'm going to do some other things too. Go to the zoo. I've never been to the zoo here. I've lived here off and on for years, decades, up in the Pacific Northwest, and have never been to the zoo up here. So go to the zoo up here, maybe go to the aquarium. I didn't really like it the last time I went. I thought it was really overrated, but they say that they've improved it. I might even do a whale watching trip. I did one with my sister years ago in October or November, but it would be a totally different experience in the summer, so that might be fun. They're very respectful of the whales. We care about our whales up here. We care deeply. So not intrusive on them at all. Yeah, so, and if I do any of those things or all of those things, definitely going to take you along with me. So it should be a kind of fun summer. But we got to get through these days first, and I got to get through this time first, because I got to get to this welcome dinner first, and then I got to get home. And if you give a mouse a cookie, I don't know. Not all the teachers had to stay, and so it's really dead on campus. I had to stay because I'm a grade level lead this year, and I don't think I will be next year, which, although I will miss some aspects of it student-wise, I will not miss all the meetings and the paperwork and just that kind of level of decision-making, and all of the planning stuff. This year because of that role, I felt like a travel planner, and I felt like a travel and a party planner. I really did. We could talk more about that later. So I will not be sad to let go of that position. But because of that position, I have to be here tonight, but other teachers don't. And so, like, my office mate isn't here, and there's very few people around, and it's really quiet, and I'm kind of bored, and I haven't read anything, but I decided to check in anyway. So what am I going to talk about? I don't know. I'm just blabbering, and I'll stop now, I guess. The next time, I am reading some things. I'm just kind of in the middle of a few things, and I don't really have enough to say. I just realized my thumb was in the shot that whole time. I don't really have a lot to say, but this is a win. That's a big win. Having that all cleaned up, that's a big win. We'll take it. This is the second to last weekend in May. It's a 3-day weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend. And it's Saturday morning. This is the first weekend I've had free since March. And a lot of people might live their life that way, but I don't live my life that way. I really value staying home. I really do. I love staying home. And I'm going to make the most of that this weekend, especially today. So there are a lot of things. I will be mostly staying home this weekend, and I might vlog all weekend. I don't know. We'll see. But I do have some like spring cleaning things that I want to do this weekend. And I have no Memorial Day plans, no barbecues, no nothing. I have None. I've been so tired of not being able to just stay home that I'm just staying home this weekend. But I have some spring cleaning stuff I want to do. I have a million books that I want to finish. And I have Mary Shelley May stuff to do that I haven't been able to do yet. I also have just the biggest stack of research papers that I need to grade for my kiddos. And I have an accidental HelloFresh box that was sent to me. I meant to not get one in May at all, and one accidentally arrived. So I have some meals that I should probably cook up. Those are my plans for the weekend. But for today, I'm not going to think about any of the things that I have to do. And I'm just going to have a how much can I read today day. I'm very, very excited about that. I have plenty of coffee, of course. It is a beautiful sunny day. We will take some walks, or I will take some walks with Lola. It's really hard to film when I'm walking Lola. But that's it. That's all I have planned for today is walks, coffee. I mean, I'll eat something, and reading, and checking in with you about all of the millions of things that I hope that I finish today and over the course of the weekend. Next weekend, I have to go out into the world. I don't know why that sounds so terrible, but it does. I have to go out into the world. It will be fun. It will be very fun. And I will take you along because we are going to take some kids, me and two friends at school, are going to take some kids thrift store shopping. And we're doing this because our school is a private school and it has an auction to raise funds every year. And this year, me and two other teachers banded together to offer an experience that was bid upon. So 5 kids, one family, but 5 kids can come. So one family won the bid, and we're going to take a bunch of kids who I don't know. They're 6th graders. I don't deal with 6th graders, but we're going to take a bunch of kids on public transportation. Shock of all shocks. Most of our kids have never been on public transportation. And we live in a place with really good public transportation. So we're going to take our kids on public transportation into the heart of the city on a Saturday morning and go thrift store shopping. So I will definitely take you along as much as I can. Of course, it might be a little bit difficult with kids around, but I'll do the best that I can. And then the weekend after that, I have some work stuff going on. The weekend after that is graduation stuff for multiple levels, middle school, high school. And then the weekend after that is my first weekend of summer. And that's going to be good. And I think I've already done a clip for you here because I had to stay late on a Thursday or a Wednesday? Thursday. I had to stay late on Thursday. All the days are melding together. I had to stay late at work on Thursday, and I had this big long chunk of time, and I recorded just a chatty little snippet. And I think I told you a little bit about some of my summer plans. So I have a lot of really great things to be looking forward to, but today is the great thing I've been looking forward to since March, my first weekend home. So before I click this off and start reading, I need to tell you about 3 books that I finished. Actually, I need to tell you about one, but I finished 3. And I only need to tell you about one because 2 of them are book group books. So this is The Stubborn Light of Things by Melissa Harrison. Quite a lot that stuck out to me there, if you can tell by the tabs. And that's a nonfiction about nature. It's nature writing, basically. I love Melissa Harrison's writing, and I really enjoyed this. I had only ever read her fiction before. I knew that this was a podcast during the pandemic, where she just kind of tried to help people get in touch with nature. And she was just writing about her own experiences in nature, trying to find nature in the city of London, and then moving out into the country and being immersed in nature and becoming increasingly more immersed in nature as she moved deeper into nature, like physically moved deeper into nature. And there's just some really beautiful passages in here, but it's also perspective giving and just really great. So there will be a dedicated video about this one and this one. This is Happiness by Niall Williams, which I think might be my favorite book of the year so far. I can't tell you more about it right now because, again, there will be a dedicated video. I need to have our book group Zoom meeting about this one. But this is so far my favorite book that I've read this year. And that was me trying not to tab every single thing on every single page. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about this one. I'm so excited that it gets a dedicated video. I mean, it shares space with the Stubborn Light of Things, but I need to read more Niall Williams. I had read In Kiltumper, which is very similar to The Stubborn Light of Things. It's a nonfiction about a year in his garden, but it's also just about him and life and the country and his wife. And I loved it, which is why I wanted to read some fiction by him. I didn't know I would almost go into a reading slump because I loved this so much. I know that there is one that takes place in Faha in December, and I'm going to read that in December this year. I'm very excited about that. Something about children and time. So I'm excited to spend a little bit more time in Faha. I hope he writes more, even more about Faha. This was such a great experience. And I can't wait to tell you more, obviously, because I'm trying to hold myself back right now. Love, 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 love my time with that book. So I did kind of go into a slump. I kept trying to pick up my Mary Shelley stuff. I kept trying to pick up the mini books that I have going on. I've been reading The Eights, and I have the stack behind me here. I've been reading The Eights, A Dance in Donegal, The Assassin's Apprentice, The Crystal Cave, The Amalfi Curse. I need to read The Wedding People, and I am in the middle of this Charlotte Bronte biography. I've been dipping in and out of the shorter stuff that I'm reading for Mary Shelley May, and I need to read The Mummy and a lot of other things that I will not get to for Mary Shelley May. I will not be blacking out my blackout card. But I couldn't get into anything this week because This Is Happiness had my whole head and heart. And so when I finished it, I was like, oh no, I'm going to go into a slump. I don't like the word slump at all, but this truly does fit the definition of a slump in my mind. Like, I don't think slumps exist for the most part, especially the way that we talk about them here in the book world. You know, everybody has dips. Everybody has lulls and highs in every activity that you are interested in. There is no like curse of the slump. For me, the slump that I was going into and the way that I'm using that word here is that I was choosing, my mind and my heart were choosing to reject anything that wasn't more Faha, because I was still present in that book. I guess reading Hangover, that term that we just kind of throw around ridiculously, also somewhat applies, but it was a massive slowdown on my desire to be anywhere but in that world. It had nothing to do with whether or not I was interested in reading as an activity. And I think that's where I get a little bit prickly about the way that people on BookTube use slump. You will always have highs and lows, interest and disinterest in every activity that you do. It's natural and it's healthy. If you always maintained and accelerated, you would not be normal. And so when I see somebody be like, oh no, I just don't feel like reading today, I must be in a slump, I think, come on, people. Like, come on. There's nothing that you do all the time consistently at the same level of interest and commitment. There is nothing. And there's nothing wrong with not wanting to read for a day, a week, a month, a year, 10 years. There's nothing wrong with it. Just live through the season. When I say slump here, it was that I couldn't let go of the world yet. And so I thought, what can I do? What will entice me out of that world and give myself permission? What will give myself permission? What will I allow to release me from Faha? And it was a reread. It was a very recent reread. And it was also the book that I am supposed to be reading for the month of May by Katherine Center. So her brand new book came out this month, The Love Haters. I got it from Book of the Month, but I had already read it. I got it as an arc, and I always get the Katherine Center arcs. It makes my heart very glad. I almost thought I wasn't going to get it this year because it came later to me than it normally does. But I got the Katherine Center arc. I read the Katherine Center book. I loved the Katherine Center book, but it was the one that I had on my list for reading in May because it came out in May. And I kind of thought that I wouldn't reread it. I would just have it and own it. But I decided that Katherine Center was the thing to release me from Faha. And I was right. I read this in one sitting yesterday when I got home from work. And she is magic for me. I love everything this woman writes. They're all the same, but they're all different. This one is about a woman who was dating someone who became famous as a singer, as a pop star. And they've been together for a really long time. We don't see them together on the page at all. This happened in the past. We reach her at the point where she's feeling really bad about herself. This is a book that thinks about the way women view their bodies, and she feels pretty negative about her body. And a lot of that has to do with her stepmother and the way her stepmother really loved her, but focused on physical appearance. And then when she is dating this guy who becomes famous, she suddenly finds herself in the public eye. She works behind the camera. She's a producer and a director and a photojournalist, I guess. And so she's a very behind the camera kind of person, but she gets thrust in front of the spotlight because her significant other is in the spotlight. And she's held to scrutiny because people are jealous of her because they wish that they were dating this guy. He ends up having an affair, and we find her at the point in her life where she's far enough out from that relationship that she's healed the loss of the relationship, but she's still very much in the muck and the mire of her own feelings of inadequacy that are brought on by her inability to discern that what the public says about her is moot. It's a moo point, to quote Joey Tribbiani. It's a moo point. And she is very much like stuck in this loop of disliking herself and feeling inadequate. She basically tries to disappear. She just wears black. She's terrified of color. She's terrified of drawing attention to herself. She ends up, through a series of events that are fun to read about, so I won't go into it, but she ends up agreeing to do a Coast Guard commercial, basically, and she doesn't know how to swim. So she goes out to do this commercial, and She's terrified. She's terrified of, it's in Key West, Florida. So she's terrified of the color. She's terrified of the swimming. She's terrified of the bathing suits. And of course, she's going to fall in love with, something just turned on over there. She's going to fall in love with her subject matter, the person that she's following for the Coast Guard. And she's going to fall in love with herself, and she's going to fall in love with color, and she's going to fall in love with all these things. The guy she ends up falling in love with, he also is afraid of being put in the spotlight. And of course, he is the subject of her video. And all of these things are going to come together in such a beautiful way. There is, she gets lost at sea. Like, there's some harrowing stuff that happens in this book, but there's also a dog. This dog, whose name is George Bailey. Yes, George Bailey. And he's a huge, what was Marmaduke? He's a huge Great Dane. And he likes to pick up toads and just hold them in his mouth. Like, hold them safe. And it's this beautiful metaphor throughout the book. This book is brilliant. Yes, she writes rom-coms, but they are so wise and so relatable. And she really does something special, Katherine Center. If you have been a little bit, no, this one actually is for those of you who appreciate this. This one's clean. There's, I think, 2 or 3 kisses in it, and that's it. So if you are looking for a Katherine Center to start with and you've not read any Katherine Center, this might be a good one. None of her books are by any means steamy. None of them. But this one is particularly not steamy, and there's still a lot of like tension and longing and interest, and there's plenty there. But this is more of a love story. There is definitely a love story, but this is more of a love story about a woman and herself. And it was beautiful. It was really beautiful. I loved reading it for the second time in 2 months. Didn't feel at all bored. I read the whole thing start to finish last night, and even did some tabbing, although I had already marked a bunch of stuff on my Kindle version. Yeah, so that is what I have read so far. And now I am going to focus in on getting some other things finished. Let's see how much I can read today. It's 9:30 in the morning on Saturday. I've already got the coffee made. I might make some toast or some breakfast or something and put on an audiobook while I do that. But I really need to sit down with some physical books that I don't have audio for. And I'm going to really focus on, I'm going to try and do like a Mary Shelley and then a non-Mary Shelley, a Mary Shelley and then a non-Mary Shelley, and see what I can get through today. Turn this off because that appliance is making a loud rackety sound, and we need to just let it finish its cycle, and then it'll be quiet in here again. Anyway, she's been sleeping on me this whole time. She loves it when I stay home. I love it too. Let's see how much I can read. All right, it's about an hour later, and I just finished reading Transformation by Mary Shelley. I love Mary Shelley. I have so many like little turns of phrase that I'm going to put in my commonplace books from this short story. It's about, in this little version, it's about 32 pages long. It's a short story about a guy named Guido. Guido, she keeps calling it pride, but I think it's more like avarice. Is that the word? He's just really into self-pleasure, and it's true, he is prideful. He doesn't want anybody to tell him what to do. He wants to be completely free, to make his own decisions, to live outside his means. He, very prodigal son-like, squanders all of his inheritance. And when he is a child, he falls in love with a girl named Juliet, and they kind of promise themselves to each other. And the fathers of these 2 kids were friends. his father dies. He inherits everything. And instead of marrying Juliet at that time, he feels like he wants to like sow his wild oats. So he does a trip, on the continent, like so many people did. And in that time, or close to the end of that time, he finds himself in Paris, which is where he ultimately had wanted to end up. What's the plan, Lola? Do you have a plan? Do you have a plan? What's happening right now? I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what's going on. What you do's, Booze? What you doing, Lolo? What's going on? I don't know what's happening. She's still standing here. I don't know why. Anyway, Paris. He wanted to get to Paris, and so he finally does, but it's a time of upheaval in Paris. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot going on between the Duke of Orleans and the Duke of Burgundy, and it's reached the point where he is pretty much sold off everything that he inherited so that he could have quick cash, which he then just wastes. She just totally climbed all around me and crawled over there. I don't know why. Now she's just chilling like a little villain. Anyway, he decides that it's time to return and finally marry Juliet, but he knows that he doesn't have a fortune anymore, and yet he has to ride up as if he does. And so he sends ahead. He sells off his last piece of inherited property for less than it's worth and spends all the money to get a horse, and then the blankets and things that go over the horse, he has them embroidered in gold with J and G initials, the initials of Juliet and Guido, all over it, and sends this horse in this beautiful outfit to the family, and it pleases them because they think that it's a sign of his wealth and his continued attachment to her. And he is attached to her, but also, if he really loved her, why is he spending years just wandering around and doing what he wants? He arrives shortly after the gift, and he's welcomed. And when it becomes apparent, so there was an agreement, because on his father's deathbed, or while his father was dying, Juliet and he became engaged, and his father had some sort of contract, some sort of agreement about assets and things drawn up. And it becomes apparent that that agreement cannot be honored because Guido has sold everything. And when that happens, his not yet father-in-law, but soon-to-be father-in-law, who's very good at heart, says, well, that's fine. I'll give you all of this money because I am quite wealthy. And I will give you and my daughter all of this money because I am quite wealthy. All of these possessions, all of this property, I will give you a lifestyle, but you have to agree to all of these terms. And he can't do it because that's not freedom. So he behaves really stupidly and gets kicked out of Genoa, which is where this is taking place. It's kind of Romeo and Juliet kind of turned on its head a little bit. It's interesting, and Coriolanus is mentioned in it, and she almost but not quite quotes Shakespeare multiple times. So this is definitely a little bit fanfic. It's Mary Shelley fanfic, with a grotesque character and a ghostly edge that is, gothic in nature, which is very Mary Shelley. So it's an interesting little thing. Like, you could see what the influences are in this one. But Juliet, she still loves him. even though he is kicked out. She's quite sad. The father-in-law, Juliet's dad, is disappointed, but also needs to protect his daughter and his own wealth. And this dude, Guido, he's been behaving really, really badly. He finds himself on a beach, just on a rock, just kind of waiting to die. He doesn't know what he can do. He can't get his hands on any more money. He wants to take revenge. He's obsessed with revenge. But there's nothing to take revenge on because he's just suffering the consequences of his own actions. Nobody has wronged him in any way except that they have not given him exactly what he wants for no reason. And he's just kind of, waiting on a rock by the sea to die when there is a storm and apparently maybe some kind of shipwreck. And from that shipwreck on a chest, like a treasure chest, which reminds me of something that I dreamed. Hang on. I'll tell you that in a second. But on a treasure chest, this grotesque being with really long arms, like it's just grotesque. It's a grotesque being, is riding this treasure chest and it floats up onto shore. And it's obviously like supposed to be like a demon, I guess, or a demon inhabiting this grotesque body. And they make a deal. They make a deal that they will change bodies for 3 days. But of course, when the 3 days is up, Guido is still stuck in the grotesque body and the demon is in his body. And the demon has made amends with the family, has agreed to do whatever it takes to marry Juliet. And yeah, he's going to marry Juliet. And when Guido in the grotesque body finds out about this, he makes the difficult journey because of his body. He makes the difficult journey back to the family summer estate. And there are transformations that happen. There's that transformation there's multiple transformations that happen. This is a layered story. It's very well done. And one of the things that I noticed about Mary Shelley's writing in this story in particular that I really, really appreciated was the fact that in the beginning, there's these paragraph long sentences. And then by the point where he's in this truncated, grotesque body, the sentences are coming very short and terse, and there's not a lot of flower to them. They're very straightforward, active sentences, and it's almost indicative of the lack of comfort, the lack of self-aggrandizement, the lack of space, the lack of freedom that he feels when he is inside this body. It's remarkably done, I think. It's very, very well done, and I really appreciated it. And I'll put some quotes and things in my commonplace book. So when May's Good News video comes out in early June, I'll talk more about that, I think, than I will right here. But for 30 pages, it was a pretty impactful little story. In the back of this one, there is also The Mortal Immortal, which is the group read for Mary Shelley May this year. And I've read it before, but I'm going to read it again. And in between those two stories, there's one I've never heard of called The Invisible Girl, which I think I will also read. I just love Mary Shelley. I love Mary Shelley so much. Obviously, because I do Mary Shelley May. But I was just reminded, thinking of the treasure chest, I was just reminded of a very strange dream that I had, not last night, not Friday sleep, but Thursday sleep. So yesterday I woke up, and I've been doing German Duolingo. If you follow me on Instagram or if you're a Facebook friend, and I only add people to my Facebook that I actually know. So if you're a Facebook friend, you know me. And if you are following me on Bookstagram, you'll know that I've got like a 420 something day streak. Like I'm very proud of my streak. And every time I hit a new milestone, I'll post a little picture and an update of the kinds of things that I am learning how to speak. If you've been around for a while, I'm sure you know that when I was a kid, I lived in Germany, and when I was in college, I took German. I've talked about all of this before. I don't feel like I should say it again, but for those of you who have no idea, I have a background in German, but I do not. I do not speak German in any way, shape, or form, beyond, Duolingo, beyond the basics, beyond the very, 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 very basics. I feel a little more confident to read it for sure, but I do not speak it because I don't ever have any occasion to speak German with anyone. And so I've learned it, but I don't know. And in Duolingo right now, like these 400 days of Duolingo, I think I've really been focusing on vocabulary. I think I've really been focusing on grammar more than vocabulary. And the vocabulary that we're learning in Duolingo is, in my mind, so random. It's everything from like witchcraft and witches and forests, to weather, to jobs, to hobbies. Currently I am learning how to go grocery shopping mostly in an organic store and mostly to buy cucumbers and oranges. It is not always seemingly useful. And I do not. And when I was in college, it was a lot of, grammar. It was a lot of verb tenses and things like that. And my professor, Herr Stenger, he had us most of the time memorizing tongue twisters because he was really, really into pronunciation. He was incredibly focused on pronunciation. And when I was a kid, I was just learning, conversational, like, what is that? How do I get here? Where's the bathroom? Those sorts of things. I did not know this word. I'm saying all of this to preface this. So I fell asleep, obviously, on Thursday night. And when I woke up, I had dreamed, and I realized that I had dreamed a conversation in German. And there was a word that was really sticking out in my mind, a German word, and I don't know what it was. Like, I didn't know what it was. In the dream, I had interpreted it as one definition of the word, like one thing. But when I looked up the word in the morning, because the word was very clear in my mind, and when I looked up the word in the morning, it was actually the word treasure. That's not what I thought it was in the dream. It was the word treasure. And that is a word, in the dream, I thought it meant honey, and it didn't make any sense at all. And when I looked it up, it meant treasure. And so a very strange experience to dream a word that I don't think I've ever encountered, to mistranslate it, and then remember it so clearly that I could look it up in the morning and find out what it really meant. And the actual word meaning doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the context of the conversation either. But it is a real word in German, one that I do not recall ever learning. And the mind is a strange thing. The mind is a strange place. Anyway, the treasure chest reminded me of the dream, and now I've told you the dream, and why, I don't know. Take it and do with it what you will. I am going to continue reading. I think I'm going to take a break from Mary Shelley and read a little bit of something else. I don't know that I'll finish something else, but I'm going to read a little bit of something else and then check in with you and then read another Mary Shelley. So here we go. And she doesn't know why we're not in bed because it's really late on Sunday night. I am ready for bed. But I was just editing all of the clips that I have so far for this wrap up. And I realized that I talked about one book twice. I'm leaving it in. And I didn't talk about this one at all. So I'm going to check in about this one. And then yesterday, which was Saturday, the day that I was trying to read as much as I could, I read a whole book after I read that Mary Shelley short story. I read The Wedding People by Alison Esbach, which was an undertaking. So I'll talk about that in a minute too. But I finished this one quite a while ago, and I should have talked about this one instead of talking about Promise Me Sunshine, I think it's called, twice. But I'm leaving both of my talks about that other one in there. Just gonna go to sleep. So let's talk about Enchantra, which was the much awaited by me sequel to Phantasma. In Phantasma, I was absolutely shocked myself for how much I enjoyed that book. And I was really, really excited about Enchantra. And when it finally got here, when I did start reading it, I was so bored. So it took me over a month to read Enchantra, and I did not love it. It is basically the same story, but it's about the sister and the other sister. It's about the sister that the first sister went in to save from Phantasma in the first place. So this one is about that sister and her romance, but I just didn't care and was very bored and wished that something new was happening, but it felt very, very recycled, and I think I'm done. It's obvious that there will be more installments of this book, of this series, and I think I'm done. I might get them from the library or audio or something and see, on the off chance that one of the heroines strikes me as much as Ophelia did in Phantasma. I really think that was the key for me with Phantasma, was that I just really liked that heroine and her love story. But Enchantra was nothing special. I will, of course, keep it because it looks really nice on my shelf next to Phantasma, but it was nothing special, which is probably why I completely forgot to update you on it. Now, The Wedding People by Alison Esbach. I read this yesterday, all in one sitting. It took me about 5 hours. So maybe not technically one sitting, but in one day, in one afternoon. It was, okay, so in the end, I loved it. I'll start there. In the end, I did love it. Getting there was a rough ride. It is a very dark book. It's supposed to be funny, and I didn't find it funny at all. I found it really sad and really harsh. Now, by the end, I absolutely loved it. By the end, everything is as it should be, and it's a great, she's sunk so far, this main character, Phoebe. She starts so low that, the only way is out or up. So she has lost everything. Phoebe has lost everything. She's incredibly beaten down by life. And over the course of the story, you wade through so much muck and anger and sadness and disappointment and bitterness from her and pretty much every other character that gets a voice in this book. So here's the deal. Well, first, why did I read it? Hi, Lola. What you do, Booze? She really wants to go to bed, and I'm not doing what she wants me to do. I am not at all doing what she wants me to do, and she doesn't know what to do about that. So, why did I read it in the first place? I read it because my friend Meg suggested it for a 12 and 12. So it was my 12 and 12 pick for the month of May. I read it because Meg recommended it, and I've had so much good fortune with all of the books that have been recommended this year, and I went into this one and I thought it was going to be more lighthearted than it was. It's a very, very heavy book, and the whole time I kept thinking, like, I have to stop this. This is dragging me down, 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 down. It's so much wading through muck. And if it hadn't been a 12 and 12, if it hadn't been Meg, silently rooting me on without her even knowing she was doing so, to the finish line, if that hadn't been happening, I would have DNF'd this book, but it was happening. And so I did finish, and I'm so glad that I did, because I definitely love this book. The character growth and social interactions between the characters it's really, really well done. So, basic premise, in case you have no idea what this book is about. Phoebe, she is unable to have children, and although her and her husband have tried for a very long time, she is a female academic, and at her university, there doesn't seem to be any way that a female can get tenure. So although her husband has received tenure, she has not. This is kind of played with her head. So part of the reason why she hasn't gotten tenure is because she hasn't published. She's only published one thing, but part of the reason that she can't publish is because she's so worried about not getting tenure. And so it's like this vicious cycle that she doesn't think can ever be broken. Her husband and her adopted a cat that they love. Henry is his name. They absolutely love Henry. And all of this happens, you learn all of this very, very early on. There's no spoilers in what I'm telling you right now. But Henry dies. I hate it when animals die, but this is just, it's an event that has already happened, and you feel her pain, but it's not something you work or like live through or read through on the page. She's lost the cat. She's lost her dream of a fulfilling career. She's lost her dream of having children. Her husband has an affair and moves out. Like, at one point in the book, someone asks if she would forgive him, and her response is something like, "He never even asked me to." So it's just, it's done. It's all done. Everything for her is done. And so she remembers having seen this hotel in a advertisement in a magazine. I'm very tired. Sorry. And she decides that this is her happy place, and she is going to go there, and she's going to kill herself. And when she arrives, the whole place is bustling. All these wedding people, all these people who have come specifically for a wedding between Gary? Is that his name? I don't remember. I just read it yesterday. I don't remember. I think it's Gary. And Lila? I think it's Lila. Not gonna remember. Not gonna remember at all. The bride, the bride, the bride. Let's just call them Gary and Lila. I think that is their names. Gary, yes. Confirmation. And Lila, confirmation. Okay. So, Gary and Lila. She ends up, Lila, okay. So I'm trying to think how it all happens. She ends up in an elevator with Lila, and Lila is trying to figure out who she is, like who's she there for the groom's family, because she feels rightly like she would know all the members of her own family, and this woman is not familiar to her. And everybody at the hotel that week, it's a week-long wedding, everybody at the hotel that week is there for the wedding except for Phoebe. And Phoebe tells her, "Nope, I'll be out of your hair. I've come here to kill myself." And Lila is obviously upset. She's not upset that the woman is going to kill herself. She's upset that the woman is going to kill herself at her wedding venue. And so Lila kind of ingratiates herself into this woman's life, and Phoebe ends up becoming her maid of honor and pretending to have been a college friend of Lila's. And the more she has to interact with this family, the more she has, and Lila in particular, the more she has to face her own stuff and work through stuff, and the more she starts to come alive because her interactions with people pull her out of herself and out of her own head. So she's dealing with stuff, but she's also interacting with people. And there's a really beautiful scene with the on-site tarot reader who is reading their futures. Really, she's using divination to read their futures, and she starts to give this beautiful, beautiful future to Phoebe. And at one point she's like, this card keeps coming up, and what this is indicating to me, what I feel very strongly, is that you are here. You are here. Does that make sense? You are here. You are here. Does that make sense to you? And Phoebe just starts crying, because obviously it means she does not kill herself. And because she's going to accept that part of the reading, she decides to accept all of the reading, basically the hope of the reading, that there is a future for her and that things will work out. And I really liked it because throughout, so she's a professor of Victorian things, but she's really focused on Jane Eyre. She's been trying to write a book about Jane Eyre. She wrote her dissertation about Jane Eyre. She's really, really into Jane Eyre. I love Jane Eyre. And so it's like this big house party from Jane Eyre, but there is no Mr. Rochester. The woman in the attic is kind of her, but she's also the governess, right? There's a little girl named Juice who ends up getting a lot of attention. Lila is kind of the woman. Lila is a little bit the Rochester, interestingly. But there are little scenes from Jane Eyre that get worked into the story, like, the person coming to tell fortunes, who is actually Mr. Rochester, but in this case, there's a on-site tarot reader. Like, there's just little things like that pull Jane Eyre in over and over and over again. And because this is all about a wedding, you can assume that there's only two ways that this wedding can go. I mean, I guess maybe there's always only two ways that a wedding can go, but there's going to be some stuff that happens, particularly around weddings. And she points out some great stuff about Jane Eyre and how she talks about weddings. And there's just some really, really great stuff in this book, which I would have totally missed because I would have given up on it long ago, because it feels so hard and so heavy to get through until you are really deeply into it. Because by the time you're really deeply into it, you are incredibly invested in these characters' lives, but also they are starting to change. Your work of reading it and how hard that is actually indicative of how hard those characters are working to grow and to change and to become better versions of themselves. And then there are all these rewards and all these payoffs, especially if you love Jane Eyre. And I just really enjoyed it. And by the end, I was just completely enthralled. And so, yeah, this was a surprisingly good read for me, a surprising win. And I wanted to check in about it so that I could add it to this video during my very late night editing session. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna go to sleep. adventure with some students on a Saturday. I'll tell you more about that later. But at the end of it, the parents gave us this beautiful set of macarons and this little heart, metal heart, that makes the loveliest little sound.